Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and in this video we are going to be making this neat little Grey Moonstone triangular pendant, and I think the back of it is pretty cool looking too. So if you have any of these triangular shaped stones and were wondering what to do with them, this is a great little design. And the only thing is it's a little bit more complex because it involves a lot of these little attachments using some thin wire. So it can be challenging to make these little attachments sometimes. That's the only thing that makes this design a little bit more complex. But other than that, I think it's a really cool, fun design and a great way to wrap this shape of a stone. So before we get started, I just want to say real quick, I hope you'll consider, if you're not already subscribed, subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell to be notified of new videos, which I make every weekend. So let's go ahead and make this pendant. Starting out with 2 pieces of 19 gauge square copper wire, and my wire's from riogrande.com. And the 2 pieces that I cut myself are about 10 inches long. This is a nice, thick, sturdy wire, which will be handy for keeping this piece stable. This stone that I'm going to be using is this Grey Moonstone, and it's a triangular shape. And if I measure it this way, it's about 1 inch, just the tiniest little sliver less than 1 inch tall. I'm going to be using half round 24 gauge wire to make my connections. And so the first thing I am going to do, I'm going to keep this on the spool, just grab the end of it, and I'm going to grab my 19 gauge wires here. I'm going to find roughly the middle of them, and I'm going to grab this wire end. I'm going to wrap it around to get me started here and to attach my half round wire. And once I've gotten started, what I can do now is guide the wire with one hand and then turn the wires with the other. And I'm going to continue this for a little bit because this is going to be my bail, and it's up to you how tall or small you want your bail to be. Just going for just a typical medium kind of size bail. Mine ended up being about 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit more than 1/2 inch. Or if we measure it in millimeters, about 15 millimeters. It doesn't have to be identical to mine. I just wanted to let you know in case you're wondering. So what you want to do is make sure that the ends of your wire are both on the same side. So I'm trimming my wire here. And I have this wire end, and then this one is a little long. It kind of goes over the edge there, but it's not quite long enough to make it go on the other side. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit. And now I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to push down on that wire end and press it down and just go across this whole bail and press it down. Here's my other wire end. I'm going to push that. So now my ends are here on the inside, and you want that part to be facing down so that when you bend this, so we're bending it now to make it our bail, there's no wire ends here. They're all in there. So I'm just bending this. If you want, you can use like some round nose pliers, stick them in there to bend this around if you're having trouble getting a nice rounded shape. I find that it just naturally bends into a rounded type of shape though. Alright, so that's our bail. And what we want to do now is we want to separate these frontmost wires. And we're going to start securing our stone. So we're going to place our stone in here. like this. And the hardest part I find of this design is to make things look symmetrical. So that's going to be what I'm fiddling with kind of the most there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bend my wires on the edges there. And I'm just going to play around to try and get this to be as symmetrical as I can. So I'm just bending them from front to back like this, and I'm just making sure that they look the same here. Okay, I think they do. So if you just bend it all the way up, you see it comes back here next to the bail. So here's what it looks like on the back, and here's what it looks like on the front. So then you can take this wire and you can continue it by pressing it down and just kind of going right there next to the bail and just next to itself like this. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a little piece of that same half round wire that we used for our bail, and I'm going to use that to connect these wires here. So I'm just placing it underneath the wires, and I'm trying to keep it so that this is the flat side of the half round wire facing me and the rounded side is underneath. You can't see it, but when you wrap, so I'm going to wrap it around just this single wire. It's okay if you need to move it to get in there, that's fine. So I'm just going to wrap it around, and now you can see that's the half rounded part of the wire that becomes visible when you wrap it. So I'm just going to wrap it around 3 times, and then this is kind of the 4th time, but instead of putting it through there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it, leave a little wire end, get in here and push that wire end down, just kind of tuck it in there so that you can no longer see it. Okay, now you can move this up, and I'm gonna take this wire and put it underneath both of the wires again, and what that's gonna do is it's gonna make a wrap and connect them, and then when I bring it this way, it creates a second wrap. So now there's like 2 wraps connecting these 2 wires. And now I'm just going to bring this wire a little bit out so there's some space for me to get in there, because what I want to do is wrap it around just this wire alone. So that's 1 wrap that got formed there. And I'm just trying to match the other side, so there ends up being 4 little wraps around. So it just kind of matches the top and then the bottom. So once you get to that 4th little wrap, just trim it, leave yourself a little wire end, and just tuck that down to hide it away. Alright, so that's that side. Now we're going to work on this side here. The stone is a little bit wobbly still, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll secure it later. It can kind of move a little bit here. So I'm grabbing 1 more little piece of half round wire, just a couple of inches long. That's all you need. And we're just gonna tuck it underneath both of the wires there.
First I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to put it under again so I can get this little wire end here on this side. You can see that formed a little wrap. I'm just going to press down on the little wrap. And now I'm going to wrap around this wire here. That's okay that it's so far down compared to the other side. You can move it up later. It's just easier for me to do it a little further down, so I have this space here and I can use that space to work my wire underneath. All right, so how many wraps is that? 1, 2, 3. So this one, due to the positioning of the wire and the way that I'm wrapping it, the fourth little wrap, I can cut it and tuck it, but see how it's really hard to tuck? There's like so little space there right now that I think it's easier just to wrap that fourth little wrap and then cut off the wire end just really deep in there like this. So now you have the 4 little wraps and the wire end is hidden away. So now I can move that up, try and match the other side. So that looks like it's good positioning. I'm going to move this wire up. So we've got the 2 little wraps just like the other side, and now we're going to work it underneath this wire to get our 4 little wraps there. So and when you're done, just trim it off. And we're just gonna tuck away that little wire end there. And if you want, you can just kind of bring this whole thing together like that. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna trim these wires. So the way that I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna put the wire in between my cutters and I'm gonna slide it down until, see right there, my wire cutters hit and I can't slide them up anymore. And I'm gonna trim. And I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. So that was my attempt to cut them to be the same length, but I think this one ended up being longer. Okay, now I think they're the same. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna grab that wire end, just kind of lift it up a little bit so I can get in there. And I like to squeeze the end with my round nose pliers. You don't have to. Whatever your way of making loops is, that's whatever you feel more comfortable with. We're just making a little loop. I know some people sometimes even use regular pliers and not round nose pliers to make a loop. So whatever you prefer for your loops, go ahead and make a little loop. And I'm just gonna get in here and kind of press on that loop a little bit with my regular pliers, just to kind of flatten it a little bit, and then get in here again. There we go. That's what I'm going for. Now I'm just gonna do the other side. So I'm flattening the tip of my wire, making that loop. And so since we're trying to get everything to be nice and symmetrical, I'm just gonna play around a little bit with this loop and try to get it as similar as I can to the placement and positioning of my other loop. There we go. Okay, so I think that looks symmetrical. So now we're gonna go on the back here. And first we're just gonna grab a piece of some half round wire, just maybe like 3-4 inches long, probably 3 is adequate. And we're gonna slide it underneath all of the wires. So this wire, both of these, and this one, just put it underneath all of the wires like this. Okay, and don't let it just slide all the way up here. Keep it on the stone. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the end here and we're gonna wrap it around, going this way, going kind of towards the bale. I'm gonna wrap it around this wire here. And I'll explain to you in 1 second why we need to do this. So just go ahead and give it a few wraps, at least 4 wraps I would say. And then when you're done making your wraps, just trim and tuck away the wire end. Everything kind of moved from me pulling on the wire, so I'm just gonna put it back in 1 second. First I'm just gonna tuck away the wire end. Then I'm gonna go ahead and fix things here. All right, fixing that wire. So here we go. This is what it looks like. So the reason we're doing this is to keep these 2 wires connected, because see how they can move? You want them to stay connected and you want them to stay on these corners here. So go ahead, push them together tightly. And now go ahead and do the other side. So we're just gonna do a bunch of wraps. Just, you have to do enough so it doesn't get unraveled. So if you just do like at least 4, it should all stay together nicely. I'm not really counting my wraps here, but I think I got at least 4 there. So then I'm just gonna trim and tuck away that wire end, and now the wires on the back are connected and they won't be able to be pulled apart like I was just showing you. Now the stone can still wobble a little bit, so we're going to take care of that. So we're going to take these 2 wires here and we're going to open them up like this, and we're going to come back to the front here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust these wires because they're a little bit, maybe because maybe it just looks that way because the stone can move, but they look like they're not too symmetrical to me. So I want to pull them down as far as I can, and what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to push my pliers kind of down like this. See how it makes a little bend in there? And now this one looks lower than the other one. So I'm going to do that on this side. So just grab it and then just kind of push, and it almost makes like a little angular bend in there. All right. So now I'm going to take these wires and I'm going to bend them forward right underneath the other wires like this. And then what I'm going to do is when I get to that little curl here, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to bend it so that it goes next to the curl. It doesn't cover up the curl. If you need, you can use your finger to kind of help create that bend, have it be like a nice rounded bend. So that's what we have there. And we're going to just bend it onto the back. I'm just going to adjust this curl a little bit higher. There we go. Otherwise, this wire, like, I don't want it to be right on the corner, you know? There we go. just trying to get it to look even. I think the problem with this wire is because it's square wire, see how it has a corner and a flat side? So I think this got just a little bit twisted. So I'm just gonna make it so the flat side is up and not the corner, because I think that's why it looks a little funny there. It's because we have the corner side facing us, and on this side it's the flat side, so just trying to keep them the same. All right, so now let's check our stone, nice and stable, not wobbly anymore. So here's our wires on the back. Just gonna push them down flat. Now you have a few options here. If you like the way that this looks from the front and you don't want to cover up any more of the stone or add any more wires, then what you can do is you can cut these and you can kind of curl them, make a little curl like this, and then use this thin half round wire to attach the little curl to like this wire here. So you'll finish off the wires and you will finish off the ends of the wires and attach them, and you'll be done there. Or if you wanted to, this is kind of option 2, this will add more wires onto the front. I actually think that this side of the stone looks pretty cool too. If you wanted to do this design like backwards. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna crisscross these wires and we're going to put them towards the front right underneath our most bottom wire there. So here they are, and I'm just putting a bend in it because I'm going to make a curl and I just want it to be bent out of the way. Like I don't want them to come here and crisscross each other. I'll make the curl in a minute, but I think that just kind of bending them in the direction of the curl kind of helps get everything started. So now that we brought them to the front, what I'm gonna do here is basically a similar thing that I would have done on the back there. I'm going to grab a little piece of half round wire, a few inches long, and I am going to attach. So I have my little piece of half round wire, and I think the easiest way, like sometimes it's kind of hard to try to work it under here, but usually on the back or just here on the corner, there's enough of a gap where you can work it underneath. And then from there, you can just kind of try to push it over the edge there to get it a little bit on the front here. So what I'm going to do now, so this is the top, this is my bail, is I'm going to wrap this half round wire around this top wire here. This is just to get us started and to make a connection. So just wrap it around several times, at least 4. All right, now I'm just gonna trim away that little end there, that little wire end, and I'm just going to tuck that in, just kind of curve it with my pliers and push it down and hide it away. All right, so now we have this wire going here on the very edge of our stone, the front edge, and what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna, so if we're looking at it like this, this is the front. Just gonna grab it here, kind of tighten things up a bit, And now I'm just going to wrap it around only this bottom wire here. All right, so we've got one wrap. Just gonna do at least 4 wraps. So that's 2. And 3. And 4. And now we're just gonna trim that. Tuck away that little wire end and just kind of press all of this together nicely like this. So we've connected all of this now. This wire is connected. So now we're just gonna do the same thing on this other side. Oh, so I don't even have to start from the back, it just works here on this edge. So working the wire underneath all 3 of these wires here. And now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hold that down and make that connection here by wrapping it around this topmost wire. All right, and I'm just gonna trim, tuck away that wire end, and now we are gonna connect, wrap around this. So first I'm just gonna kind of push everything together there, and I'm gonna go ahead and connect that. Just gonna trim off and push away that little wire end, and we're done. We are finally done with all these little connections. So now it's time to just make a little curl with these ends. So I'm just gonna try and trim them here on the very edge so that they look the same length. Now this one looks longer. Before the other one looked longer. All right. So let me grab my round nose pliers. So I'm just gonna lift it up from the stone a little bit so I can get in there. And I can press down on this wire end and just make a little swirl. And now I'm just gonna use normal pliers to try and get that swirl to look nice. I'm gonna kind of flatten it a little bit there. Shape it nicely and press it down. And now the other side. Just gonna lift that up, get in here, flatten that and make the swirl. Ooh, that swirl turned out very oval. So I'm just gonna squish that a bit with my regular pliers and just kind of flatten it. Try to get it look as similar as I can to that side there. And just press it down. All right, so now we've finished off the wires. We got the little swirls there, we got the little swirls up here, and our pendant is complete. The stone is really stable now, it doesn't wobble at all. Here's what it looks like from the back.
So that's it. Here's my little Grey Moonstone triangular pendant. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.